Howdy, folks. I am Brian Weiner, and I'm with Holly Hamill and Lauren Morgan. And this is our final in our Ideal series, number 13. We are the Supernova Society, in case you forgot, after the first 12 of these. This one is about don't take yourself too serious. Everything in moderation. So you got to remember that life is this cosmic joke. And guess what? We're all in on it. So laugh at yourself whenever you can. And this allows you to stay resourceful at all times. Don't get lost in the search for perfect, because too much of anything can be detrimental. And it's good to remember that everything in moderation. We want to make sure we aren't avoiding, but enjoying the full spectrum experience. Ted Loder says, when you can laugh at yourself, you are free.
Secret to life requires following one single rule. If you want to succeed and be happy, don't take yourself too seriously. So why do we do this? First, we have to understand that it's not only about you. While you may
Really?
Brian, it's not only about you. Newsflash. If you may be the center of your own world, Brian, but you are not the center of the world. Brian.
Oh.
And it's also good to remember that when you take yourself too seriously, that means that you're thinking that everything revolves around you. And that's why we fear being ridiculed. We don't want to face that we're not so special. Now, each of us is special in our own way, but what's really important is to remember not to take yourself too seriously. Also, shame kills our magic. When we feel shame, that means that we're not able to fully expand and fully be in the moment and fully express ourselves to all the magical little places that we might go if we're feeling no shame. If we're not taking ourselves too seriously, then we can really be free to explore all the wonderful, colorful parts of our personality. Perfection is the enemy of change. When we're trying to be too perfect, first of all, that doesn't even exist. But when you're trying to be too perfect, it keeps you from making progress. It keeps you from being able to change and evolve and to grow into the beautiful creature that you're meant to be.
So another reason to not take yourself so seriously is actually scientifically backed, because laughter is actually shown to reduce stress and to increase our resilience. It stimulates many of our organs, so it enhances the amount of breaths we're pulling in, the amount of oxygen we're pulling in to stimulate our heart, our lungs, our muscles, our brain. Laughing releases endorphins. It actually activates and relieves our stress response as well, so it can be great for trauma healing. And it also soothes tension, both like in a group of people as well as within as well. And then there are some long-term effects of laughter as well, such as improving our immune system, relieving pain, increasing personal satisfaction, and just overall improving our mood.
You know, this is the whole reason I started learning about laughter yoga. So laughter yoga is this practice of intentionally laughing every day for as long as you can. It starts out with a minute at a time, and it goes 5, 10, and if you can get to 15 minutes. And they say 15 minutes of laughter a day is like an hour of exercise. So yeah, I'm a fan of laughing as often as we can.
I feel you. I've totally gotten sore from laughing too hard before.
Me too. Cheeks and belly.
Yep, exactly. So another reason to not take ourselves too seriously as well is that taking our mistakes personally can actually block our growth. If we are hyper-focusing on a mistake that we've made and hyper-focusing and ruminating on the fact that we're a horrible person because of it, or we'll never get better because of it, or things like that, we can actually block our growth because we can't look at that mistake objectively. We can only look at it as an attack on ourselves and our character. And so we respond defensively. And then we can't really get to the bottom of how to not make that mistake again. So it's super important to just not take these mistakes too personally.
You know what my favorite reason is for not taking yourself too personally or too seriously? It's just more fun. It's just more fun to laugh at yourself and laugh at the situations that you're in. That's what I've found over time. So I guess I bet you're asking yourself right now, how do I do this, Brian? Well, good, I'm going to tell you. You take a step back and you find the irony or the humor in any difficult situation. How does my life always know how to push my buttons? How is this perfect right now? So if you find yourself, yourself forcing control today, like loosen your grip. And the world will not always bend to your will, which means it's time to embrace a little bit of flexibility on your end. And I know I need to, right? And wherever possible, stop comparing yourself to others. It only brings misery. It isn't about comparing yourself to the other, but what is possible for yourself. When we're in the state of open possibility, all options are available to us. And we're back where we started, which is that beginner's mindset.
Absolutely. I love that you circled back to that. The next how is to confront the fear of being ridiculed. If you are shame resilient and you can't be embarrassed and you're not afraid of being ridiculed, you are so incredibly powerful. And also let go of your reputation. You don't always have to be so prim and proper. You don't have to be infallible. To err is human. Let go of your rigid identity too. Let it be okay for you to stumble. Let it be okay to laugh at yourself. Let yourself really just feel the joy of being silly and ridiculous. This reminds me of when I was in the International Thespian Society when I was 15 in high school, my sophomore year. I was into this theater program, and we had to do a day of hazing at school in order to be into the club. And so the upperclassmen were allowed to command us to sizzle like bacon in front of our biology professor, and I had to sing "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" to my history teacher, and then I had to act like a giraffe too. And so there was all kinds of things that were like wouldn't mortify the average 15-year-old. But once I did that, I felt like I was unstoppable. Nothing could touch me because I had already put myself in a situation to be so incredibly embarrassed at like one of the most vulnerable times in your life in high school, and I survived it. I didn't die. I was able to have fun and laugh at myself and be who I was and be embraced for it. It was wonderful. Another time I was at a Burning Man event, and one of our friends there, who's just known for his sense of humor and weirdness, shout out to Sully Schipple-Dippelson, I decided I was going to out weird Sully at this event. And
That's hard.
Yeah, it really is. Like, he is like extra, extra weird and wonderful. And so I was like, what would happen if I just really radically expressed myself and tried to out weird Sully? So, yeah, that's what I did through the whole burn. And the things that I would normally be like, don't say it, it's too weird, people are going to laugh at you, I just threw it out there. And you know what? People loved it. I just like increased in popularity. Even like people like really, really loved my weird, zany, creative mind. And I had been shutting it down for so many years, being afraid that people wouldn't like my weird, but that's actually what makes me who I am, this ridiculous human in front of you. And I embrace it. And I want that for you too, because it's so liberating.
Yeah, Holly, I can't I can't get out of my head how a giraffe sounds, or how you were able to. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I needed to know. So, and you guys needed to know as well. So now the next thing that we should do, how to not take ourselves too seriously, is actually drop the ball. Like, do it. There's this tension that happens with, ooh, don't drop the ball, I can't mess up, and there's so much pressure. And honestly, sometimes when we do drop the ball, it's kind of a relief, right? It's kind of like this pressure release of sorts. Personally, in my own life, I had a horrible fear of speaking publicly up until I just completely screwed up in front of an entire group of people. I was a tour guide at Georgia Tech. Yes, I was trying to do some exposure therapy by making myself do that with the fear of public speaking. But yeah, I ultimately messed up in a question and answer session with a bunch of parents and prospective students, and I had to fumble my way through, and I did it. And honestly, it was like a huge weight was released off of me. And I finally had this experience of like, oh, I know what I would do if I screwed up, and I'll be fine.
I at Maker Square, makerspace that I used to own and operate, was we had a saying which was fail and then fail better, right? And what it was designed to do is allow you the permission to not succeed, right? This is how we experiment. This is how we do things that are outside our comfort zone, right? If we're always doing the same thing that we know we're going to be successful on, we're never going to grow, right? All of the magic happens outside of our comfort zone when we kind of fail, or when we're doing experimentation, right? And The other part of this is that we need to sometimes just change our tone or change the perspective that we're looking at things through. Sometimes, you know, when I'm in a difficult situation, one of the things that a tool that was given to me when I was younger was, what will I laugh about in 5 years? And then I find that thing and I start cracking up. And I've had some really ridiculous situations where I've just had to kind of just be like, okay, you just got to laugh about this, because if not, like, you're going to break down and cry. And sometimes that laughter actually like releases that, and you start becoming more resourceful almost immediately. And then Lomo and I were talking earlier, and she was saying that she likes to, like when there's a difficult conversation to be had, sometimes she starts like with like a funny voice, so it kind of softens it a little bit. So I was like, I want a divorce. So, I mean, how can you be mad at that, right?
And I had no idea that Yoda was married at this point.
Babies too.
So,
Where did Baby Yoda came from? Come on.
So another way for us to not take ourselves too seriously is to become shame resilient. And the easiest way to do that is actually to go to an art museum and then flash all of the artwork, like the photo you see here.
You heard it, folks. We endorse that.
I'm just kidding. But Brene Brown talks about this really key difference between guilt and shame. And so I really do believe that the way to become shame resilient is to kind of tease apart that difference. And we go over the difference between guilt and shame in multiple of our different offerings that we have for you guys. But basically what it boils down to is guilt is feeling bad about your behaviors or events or things like that. Shame is internalized. Shame is feeling bad about yourself. And so if we can keep our guilt as guilt, if we can recognize when our behaviors need to change, not take those mistakes so personally, and keep that out of shame, then we're really able to not take ourselves too seriously, and we're able to fix things and fix mistakes as they come up and prevent mistakes from happening in the future. And then lastly, add some more humor to your life. There was a point in mine where I was going through Georgia Tech and there was no real humor around. There wasn't a lot of art. It was all really, really serious, really, really stressful. And so I actually, when I graduated and started interacting with people that weren't from tech, I was like, I need to look up some jokes or something. Like, I need to like loosen up and like have something to contribute when people start busting out jokes, right? So this, you know, I want to include this just to say there is no shame in looking up jokes or watching comedy bits for material or things like that. There is nothing wrong with infusing humor in your life and trying to learn and study it if you feel like you need more of it. And lastly, we're going to leave you guys with 2 quotes. The first one is by William Arthur Ward. To make mistakes is human, to stumble is commonplace, to be able to laugh at yourself is maturity. And then another from Oscar Wilde, a lovely trickster that I love to read. Everything in moderation, including moderation. Good luck with that, guys. But thank you guys so much for watching this and being a part of our ideals. This will be our final one.
Yeah, this concludes our ideals. And these are our guiding principles that guide the Supernova Society. We try to live these every day. And even as we filmed them, we've realized how much they apply to our life almost all the time. And we hope that they've been valuable for you. We thank you. Please go back through the other videos. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing these videos. Thanks for liking them. And thank you again for your time.